Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about privacy and the government. So specifically, we will be talking about the US government and the legal systems that we have in place for privacy and other things that have happened within the realm of the US politics and national conversation regarding privacy and security. So again, this is US focused, which is just because that is where we are located. A lot of these things are going to also apply to other countries and other governments, but we're going to talk about it in the context of the government which we live in. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is government and data collection. So with the government and data collection, there's a lot of data collection that currently happens within the US. So things that happen within the US include drone-based surveillance. So we will use, police officers, federal law enforcement, government agencies in general will use drones to collect data on certain activities in the US. This is most commonly protests and other large gatherings such as sports celebrations. That's pretty common as well. So sport celebrations. So when there's a large celebration where it kind of spills out into the public area, they will often use drones to try to monitor and assess that type of situation. So it's very similar to protests in that it's a large gathering of people, and they're interested in seeing what is happening with that body of people. Now, your beliefs about whether or not it is right or wrong for government agencies and law enforcement agencies to use these isn't really the point. The point is that it happens. We can discuss the ethics of it at the end of this chapter. That's actually the point of this, is to discuss the ethics of all the things that our government does and doesn't do in relation to privacy and security. So drones are one way in which the government tries to collect data. Another example is things such as your driver's license or other forms of state or national ID. So driver's license happens to be the most common. This is because most people have one, right? Most people in the US do drive, and as a result, you have a driver's license that says you're allowed to drive, you're legal to drive. And that's one of the ways in which law enforcement agencies and the government as a whole can keep track of its citizens. You get a driver's license number, you get your address put on it. There's all kinds of information that's tied to your driver's license that you may not even think about on a regular basis. The next thing is something like the Patriot Act. So this is a little bit of a more severe form of data collection that the government uses. So we have some things like drones, we have driver's licenses, things that are more or less commonplace and things that we kind of expect for the government to collect. But then there's things like the Patriot Act, which goes much further into that data collection. It will use cell phone data, web history, as well as other forms of communication that you might participate in, such as social media. Okay, so the Patriot Act is much further extended than other data collection efforts by the government in the past, and it has a lot more ramifications to our privacy and national security than some of these other options. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of privacy we're even talking about, because there's so many types of privacy. What is it that the government tends to be interested in? So we're going to talk about a taxonomy. That is not how you spell taxonomy. Hold on. Taxonomy of privacy. So this is just going to give us kind of a guideline of things that we are talking about when we talk about data collection and invasions of privacy as individuals. So we're going to have information collection. So this is basically what these first three things are. It's different forms of data collection. We also have information processing. So this is a way of handling that data in such a way that we actually analyze it in some fashion, that we do something over the data. Perhaps we're putting it through a machine learning algorithm or something else. And the last thing here that we're going to talk about is information dissemination. All right, so information dissemination is about actually putting that information out there to other people. So typically the government doesn't do this except for within its own government agencies. So the FBI might communicate with local police and local police with the FBI. However, there is some dissemination of information about your private or personal data that you might not expect to actually get disseminated to the general public, and it does. So from the last lecture and the assignment I gave you to cyberstalk me, you should have seen that the some of my information, information that I would prefer to be private, such as maybe my home address, is technically public information. And this is true because it's on my driver's license, because of legal reasons for the purchase of a home. It has to do with a lot of different things about how public records work and how that information gets handled. So I could have my information disseminated from the government in ways that I don't want or don't expect. So in the next couple videos, we're going to be talking about different ways in which the government actually does these different things and different ways in which we expect the government to behave in order to interact with us and protect our privacy and protect our security as citizens.